here it is the Tumbler in a software called NetFab Basic. It's basically a 3D software used for slicing up 3D models like this one for 3D printing, but the reason I've chosen to use this software is because it's quite easy to use and you can scale the model up to whatever size you like, and I've scaled this up to full scale, which is 15 foot long by 9 foot wide. So that means that any measurement I take on this now will be the real measurement that it's going to be for a full scale model in real life. And the bit I'm building at the moment is this piece here. So we just zoom in on that. So the way I'm building each piece, as you see, all of these are big flat pieces that are just stuck together. So I take my little measurement tool up here. I then say take this piece here, measure that. That comes up at about 19 centimeters. I then draw that down on a piece of paper and then measure this piece here. That's about 32 centimeters. I'll write that down too. Take the next measurement, and so on until I've got down all of my lengths of whichever shape I'm doing. This one here has got loads of sides to it. Some are quite simple, like you can see we've got a triangle in here, 3 sides, really simple. This one here has got, God, how many is that, 8 or so sides. Quite tricky. There's a couple of bits on the top here that have got some recessed areas as well, which is, you know, another problem in itself. And as you can see, the tyres on the back here, it's the same pattern over and over again, but you know, each one of these treads would have to be drawn out and cut out, and you know, it's all very tedious work, but it's necessary. So once I had all my measurements, I then transferred them onto lengths of foam to make a template of each shape. Now these lengths of foam are actually the edge strips that you get on the edge of each foam mat like this, that are usually pretty useless and just end up going in the bin because you can't really do anything with these, but I found a use for them, and that's what these are. So I'd measure each of these to the right length. As you can see, there's numbers on all these pieces, which are the lengths that I took from the 3D model, and then I stuck them together, being sure to get the angles correct as well by measuring the angles on the 3D model and transferring them over onto my foam pieces to make sure that these are all the same shape as they should be, because they could end up too squashed or too fat and then the two pieces wouldn't stick together. And now that I've got these like this, it's just a case of laying this over on top of a piece of foam like this one here, except this is 2 pieces of foam that I've had to stick together because this piece is massive. And I'll pop it on there, and then I'd hold that in shape with these little pins that will just keep that where I want it on the foam. I draw around it with a pencil, then I cut it out, then I flip this one over and draw around that on another big piece of foam. So I've got the same piece for the other side. So I've got my template all pinned down to my big piece of foam. The reason I've got it pinned down is to make sure it doesn't move while I'm drawing around it, and also to pull each piece nice and straight so that there's no bend in the foam, as all of these lines are supposed to be dead straight, so that this piece will line up with a corresponding piece. Otherwise there may be gaps in it, and that wouldn't be good. It wouldn't all fit together, and I would have wasted 2 foam mats, and a pack of 6 mats is £10. So it would end up costing me loads of money, and unlike Bruce Wayne, I'm not a billionaire. So that's that piece all cut out. Next thing to do is to stick together 2 more mats and then draw around this piece, but flip the other way up like this, so that it will be for the right side of the tumbler. Got my 2 foam mats glued together now. All I did was cut the edge off of both of them and then hot glue them together down the middle. Now I've got one big mat, so I can now lay this piece the wrong way up on there. So if I lay it down the right way up, I'll have 2 identical pieces, which will be no good because one needs to be for the left, one needs to be for the right. So I need to lay one upside down like this. So now one's left and one's right. I'll draw around that with a pencil and then cut it out. And here is that piece. connected to some other pieces. It's all very lightweight and all very big. And this piece here on the model is this piece joining this piece. So I just need to do these bits to connect it to the roof. Right, making the roof now, and I've got to attach this piece to this piece. The only problem is the glue will stick really well to this side, but not so much to this side, because this side is really smooth, whereas this side is quite porous. So the glue will seep into this side, but it'll just peel off of this side. So I've got to do something to this before I put the glue in it. So I'm using this. It's a type of file. Not quite sure what it's called, but it's like a cheese grater. And it is really good for roughing up this surface. You just scrape across the surface and that tears it to pieces basically, making it much better to glue on. Only thing with this is definitely the kind of tool you want to slip with, because it will tear the skin on your hand and hurts like hell, trust me, I know. Right, I'm now making some detail bits for the roof. I've got this piece here that looks kind of like a giant rocket, and that goes down the centre of the roof like that. This is the front bit, but it's not flat like this, it's not as thin as this. It's supposed to have beveled edges, and I've measured it out and it's going to be about 3 cm slope up there. So I've cut these 3 cm strips. I've just got to attach these to this, but as this foam is 1 cm thick, I can't join it to the edge properly, so I need to angle with the edge of this so it lines up properly. And the easiest way to do that, I'll just cut this end off first, is to take some scissors. If I want it to slant that way, I just cut it at an angle down the foam like this. And the good thing this is flexible, so I can bend it out of the way of the handle as I'm doing it. And this would give me roughly 45-degree angle. Now when I take this piece and hold it up to here, that now gives me the angle I need. So we're going to glue that on, leaving a bit of overhang at the front so that the piece on the other side can join up into a nice point. I'm going to take a little bit of glue, just do the first 6 inches or so first. Down there like that. Another benefit of sticking these edges on is it will make this a lot more rigid, because this is very bendy at the moment. Once I've got all these edges on the outside of it, it will stiffen it up a bit, which will help keep everything nice and straight and level. Right, that's on there, and that's now got the edge it needs. I'm probably going to have to cut the edge of this off as well, so it'll sit flat on the roof. Right, so I've stuck my edge pieces on, and they come down at a nice angle, and they have made it a lot more rigid, as have these pieces that I've stuck on the underside here. It doesn't really need to be held rigid because it's going to be just stuck on the roof. But what this is for is so that, as it's going to have a brim around the edge, this bit here might like dip in if there's nothing holding it up. So those 3 strips are in there just to hold this so it stays flat and doesn't sag in the middle. So yeah, now that's mostly done. It just needs one more piece stuck across the top in the middle there, and then that'll be ready to attach to the roof. Had to do away with the table because the size of the roof was getting a bit out of hand. As I was sticking more and more onto it, it got bigger and bigger and bigger, and now it's about the size of a double bed mattress. So it's absolutely ginormous, but it still fit through a door, so that's all good. I'm not going to add any of the sides on, that's as big as it's going to get, because otherwise it'd be a nightmare to transport it. So I'm going to keep it big and flat like this, and then the sides of it will be removable. So I've just got a couple more bits and bobs to do on the roof, and then I'm on to the rear quarters. So this is the underside of the roof. The shiny thing in the middle there is something I'm going to glue to it to try and keep the roof nice and flat. It's just a steel channel that you're supposed to stick to walls and keep cables nice and tucked away with, but where it's got the contour you can see there, that'll keep it from bending or flexing. I mean, if you put too much weight on it, it will eventually fold in half, but as this is only foam and I'm planning on using 3 of them, I'm hoping that that will be as strong as I need it to be, but I won't know that until I've done it. Oh, birds are chirping, almost time for bed I think, but I've managed to get these 3 support channels glued on, and I won't know whether or not they're going to keep the roof in one rigid piece or not until I try standing it up in a moment. So fingers crossed. When I chicken dinner, it would appear those 3 steel channels that I put in the back have held this together nicely. They're staying nice and rigid up against the wall there, whereas previously it just folded in half. And yeah, that's working fine. I'm going to get some more of those. They're only about £1.50 each. I'm going to use the same method to keep the other massive parts in the shape they need to be. Just to give you an idea of how big this is, I'm going to stand next to it. I'm 6'1", and it's bigger than me. This is just a roof piece, so this is going to be one massive vehicle. Why couldn't Batman drive a Mini? But yeah, that's that. Roof almost finished. There's a couple more detail bits that need to go on, like it needs some like fin type things in here. There's some spoiler type parts that go on the bottom end there, which is the back of the roof. But I'm not going to put those on until I've figured out a way to attach the sides and everything, but I can't do that until I've built them all. I've got to build the rear quarters next, and then it's going to be attaching all the panels to each other. Got a tip for you. These knives are really good for cutting this EVA foam. Only problem is after a while they go dull, and instead of giving you a nice clean cut, it will just drag through your foam and essentially tear it instead, which is not very good. So instead of just snapping the blade off like you're supposed to do, instead I've nicked this from my kitchen. It costs about a £5 for one of these, and it's meant to sharpen your kitchen knives, but it works just as well on these. All you do is take your blade and run it through the thingy there a few times, and that will make that really sharp again. And that. And now if I take a piece of foam here, I can cut through that, and that is a nice clean cut. So that's going to save me a lot of time changing blades and a lot of money from buying new blades. It takes a few seconds to sharpen, and this is the only blade I've used for this whole project. In fact, I've been using this knife for months. I haven't changed the blade. The only thing you need to change the blade for is if you go at it a bit funny and snap it yourself by putting too much force in it. But if it stays sharp, you won't need to do that. So I've been using this for ages. So a knife sharpener, spending a £5 once, you're going to get to use the same knife for ages and ages and ages. Oh man, it's like 6 AM. I was going to go to bed about an hour and a half ago, but I decided to forego my sleeping in favour of building more of this, and it's the spoilers, or whatever these are, I'm doing now. I've cut the shapes out. There's 6 of them, 3 on each side, and I'm working on these details you can see here. Each one has 7, and on this model they're raised above the surface of the spoiler, but in all the reference photos I've seen they're actually recessed into it. So it's just a case of cutting these shapes out of each one, which has taken a while, and then pushing them in slightly and then gluing them from the back, and in proper Blue Peter style, here's one I made earlier. So I've just drawn around the little template that I made, which is this, and then I use this to space the next one, and so on and so on. Cut it with my knife, and then I pushed them in ever so slightly and then just glued them from the back. Right, so that's about it then. You've seen how I'm building this, and it's a very long process of measuring each part on the model and drawing it out on foam and cutting them out, and I've almost finished it now. In fact, the only foam pieces left to do are a few big pieces. So this piece in here, which is like the side window, needs doing. I need to do a piece inside each of these wheel areas here to connect the front to the sides, and at the back here underneath, at the moment it's just a big gaping hole. I need to build something to fill that up so you can't see into the car, and that's it really for the foam. And then it'll be a case of going back over the pieces I've made and adding in some details that I haven't yet done. For example, these circular things here and all these little bits and bobs. And down here as well we've got some details down here, but that shouldn't take too long, and then that'll be it. All the pieces will be done. So the next video, episode 3, I'll be focusing on building a plastic frame to assemble the car over. As it's all foam, it won't really support itself, so I'm going to build a plastic frame, and then all of the pieces are going to need to snap together, and my plan is to use strong magnets. So if you take a look here, this is the edge of a piece I've made, and where this edge is I'm going to put magnets every few inches down here and on the corresponding piece next to it, and hopefully they'll just snap together and pull apart relatively easily, so assembling it shouldn't take too long. So make sure you keep an eye out for the next video, which should hopefully be up, may I say, a few days, perhaps about a week or so. And I've only got until, not this Saturday, the one after. It's technically Tuesday now, it's 3:15 in the morning, so I've got about a week and a half to get this finished. And if that's not enough, I've decided to take on extra work, but more on that in a future video. Well, I'm going to carry on building. See you next time.